And we are recording on Wednesday, December 17th, 2025 at 12:07 p.m. Eastern Time with my buddy David Gosselin, who's been on here a zillion times before. He's another Tim Dillon Ray Kump aficionado, and which automatically bumps you to the front of my list in terms of people I can relate to, because I quote Tim Dillon all the time, and people are like, who the fuck is Tim Dillon versus you? Where the fuck did it go? You do know. And for everybody listening, you go into the description, you can follow him on Substack, and we're going to talk about I think the first one came out last year, The Ghost in the Machine, and then I know the second one came out whenever, but in general, the idea of psyops. And very well done video. I mean, kind of eerie when you realize it's from the military, but hey, it's always been. You just know about it now. It's always been there. It's you just know. It's like discovering nuclear weapons in 2025. Like, no. The threat's been there for 80 years. You're not finding out. But yeah, in general, that's you like you said. Yeah, to quote the great Tim Dillon is it's harder, more poetically. In World War One, there's this analysis after World War One that said the only reason World War One was able to happen was because of post World War One Europe. People had these homes, they had these traditions. There's a long flowery letter about sitting on your grandpa's knee near Christmas and going to church and falling in love by the river. And because of that, you're able to do World War One because people would fight for that. But once you've gotten rid of that, it's no longer possible because that deep thing is no longer there to be fought for. Or as Tim Dillon says, like there's always we all know it's a scam, but it's a scam that we have a certain tolerance for because ultimately you can still go buy a shitty house somewhere. You can get some Vicodin, some Marby Reds, and you can go nail fat chick at the bar. But even that's going away. So without any of that, it is becoming increasingly now no one's going to join the military. Now no one's going to do anything because there was at least a promise of some dog shit. And now that is gone. But I think you said it better than I did. So I'm going to give it to you, David.
Oh yeah, so I mean, we're just gonna for people who are just tuning in here,
We're going to watch the Ghost in the Machine video. Yeah.
so we're gonna watch the latest Fort Bragg PSYOP, Fourth Airborne Division's psychological warfare unit's latest recruitment video, which is aimed at the Gen Z. So we were just discussing before that Tim Dillon made a great point about how a lot of the younger generations, interestingly, they're not believing a lot of the psyop slop, right? The propaganda and narratives that are being put out by you name the institution, whether it's the State Department, whether it's the intel agencies, or just the overall kind of corporate
The zeitgeist of corporate America of go to school, get the degree, get the home, do the thing.
Yeah, so Tim Dill's just making the point that for previous generations were able to believe a lot of this stuff because they were getting something out of it, right? They were able to buy a house relatively easily compared to today, right? You go to school, you pay a bunch of money for a degree that's actually not that good, but you get a viable job, right? You get secure employment and all that. That's not the case anymore. A lot of people who were told, I mean, millennials, they found out, right, that yeah, you can pay a lot of money for an expensive degree and then still not really have any viable or secure source of income or professional career. A lot of them are like baristas, right? So that's real.
Yeah.
So why would anybody believe the horseshit that is coming out of the establishment and major institutions or Hollywood or any of these things, right? And so here we have Fort Bragg. And as we'll see in my article, I wrote an article called Ghosts in the Machine, Propaganda, PSYOPs, and the Psychomythic Wars. And the thesis is just that the information wars of the future won't be won by who has the most information, which is what World Economic Forum, Palantir, and it's really what they're about, gathering as much information
Everything.
and having the most power as a result of that. But the thesis of this is that it won't be won by who has the most information, but by who tells the better stories.
Sure.
And so narrative wars in ultimately a story that's true, right? That's the catch. But who can actually convey that truth in a more powerful way? That's going to be a lot more effective than just pummeling people with horseshit nonstop. And, you know, as back in the day, they see which message sticks, right? Which one works. And we just go with that. But that's hard to do when the physical and immediate visceral reality for people is so, you know, there's no correlation between the narratives that are being put out and the stark realities. It's just hard to hold up that brave new world type illusion that worked for a very long time. So
So
yeah, the new campaign now.
well, it's I remember it was like middle school, right? Like the first time you I was in sixth or seventh grade in like 2002. It's like the first time you find Google and you're like, oh, I don't even have to do this fucking book report on Egypt. I can just copy and paste. What you quickly realize though is if you have Google, everyone has Google, and if everyone has Google, no one has Google. So very quickly sending in a 10,000 word essay for an assignment that was only 1,000 words, that no longer is an impressive metric because the teacher's like, you guys are all doing this. So no one has Google. And it's kind of the same thing. If everyone has ChatGPT, no one has it. So in that same way, there isn't a monopoly on information like 20, 30, 50, 60, whatever. Years ago, you really did kind of have to be a government agency to have that. When everyone has that. When you and I right now can open up live cameras in China to the front in Ukraine to Mexico to whatever, that is no longer a monopoly. GPS is not a monopoly. So instead, if everyone has it, no one has it. So then what would be the next leveling up?
Mm,
Craft it and explain it in the most acceptable or palatable way.
right. So yeah, I mean, let's let people see the video
Oh yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
And we'll so we're just doing a screen share here. We rehearsed this 2 seconds ago. Let's see if it still works. Uh boom. Boom. You can see video full screen.
Yep.
Nice. All right, guys. So showtime.
Oh, we're not getting audio though. David, we're not getting audio.
Hmm?
We're not getting audio.
Oh,
Motherfucker. No, it's you have it. It's
right. For
oh,
some reason that's a thing that
yeah.
happened when we were doing the
Yeah, hold on, let's see.
unless you tried on your end and it works. I don't
Yeah, I'm gonna try that right now.
All you do is screen share and share entire screen and
Yeah, I'm gonna try
make it
that right
whole.
now.
Matt fixed it the last time. We had the same issue. Otherwise, we'll just talk about what it said, but
Let's see. Tell me if fuck, what did I just all right. So you stop sharing.
stop sharing. I stop now.
Now I'll share. Can you see it?
Yup.
And let me know if you can hear it. Can you hear anything?
No. Yeah,
Well,
so
I,
it's just
but I think they'll see it though. If I do it on my end, I think they'll see and hear it. So
I
we'll just
can
do
see
this.
it, but I'm not hearing it.
Well, you've already heard it. I think the people watching will be able to
Oh,
see and hear it if I do it on
oh
my
shit.
end.
Okay.
There are many people in the world who really don't understand. Freedom has many difficulties, but we have never had to put a wall up to keep our people in. Freedom is indivisible. And when one man is enslaved, all are not free.
Modern war has become a struggle for men's minds as well as for their bodies. Today we face an enemy that spends enormous sums of money and manpower all over the world, attempts to subvert the thinking of the people of the free world, confuse, divide, and ultimately to subjugate. It is a contest unlike any we've ever faced in our history as a nation. Contest for the minds and hearts of people around the world. All people.
When power corrupts, poetry cleanses. We must never forget that art is not a form of propaganda. It is a form of truth.
And how poets find that control of the whole system began by understanding the stimulus response pattern. Many everyday things become associated with these fractional stimuli, probably by a process called conditioning.
It's a strange, shadowy world. The doctored photograph, misquotation, insinuation, and a lie.
I think of the liar next to the one. You have to get hold of yourself. We'll light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world.
Yes, in modern warfare, our military leaders are finding that words and ideas are highly effective weapons.
As a note, I think I did hear it. I just didn't hear the music, so it's like some of the audio came through, but not the rest, which is strange.
Yeah. So I hadn't watched that second one. I had watched the first one. I knew there was a second one, but I hadn't watched it. I know it's, yeah, again, to quote the great Tim Dillon, is he's like, and maybe we could actually play into this. It's he and Ray are talking about the, when you're seeing, this is like 2018, 2019, they're talking about the cracks in the phrase in society and how the narratives are almost better. And Tim goes, I'm watching the Bush funeral, think HW. And he's like, and I know who this guy is. The Family of Secrets, Devil's Chessboard. You know who all these evil people are. And despite knowing it, he's still like, I'm tearing up watching the funeral. Like, I know it's all horseshit. And I think Ray goes, like, the CIA did 9/11, but I still watch the video of Bush standing on the pile of rubble and get inspired. And there is almost something to that, to where even when you know it's provably horseshit, the narrative is so powerful. So even now, we're going into this with a preamble talking about it being psychological warfare. I'm watching it with you, and we know it's psychological warfare. And despite knowing that, I'm still getting like jacked up. I'm still like, this is fucking awesome.
Right.
So what if you don't know? And not to sound like you and I are some gatekeepers of no, but like, imagine if you really are just completely oblivious. Imagine if you really are a normie, which
or even if you're just kind of into a bit of QAnon stuff and you think there's a white hat conspiracy, I think you can join the good guys within that large
anything
system.
That takes you for a ride.
For sure.
Like, we're going into this with like the biased notion of we're both like, this is horse shit and they need to do it in order to get people to buy into the game. And even with that, I'm still watching. I'm like, this is, fucking JFK, great cinematography, crisp sound. Like, yeah, this is important. Like,
yeah. And I mean, well, I think that's going back to Plato's time. I mean, the same argument was made. Like, that's why he was saying that the image makers in society, which were the poets back then, image making is still image making today. It's evolved with film and modern propaganda and even modern art or whatnot, but the same principles still apply. And I mean, the idea is art is putting you, a performance of art or presentation is putting you in an altered state. right? Art, poetry have a light trance or light hypnotic effect through images. You're imagining something other than your immediate reality. You're transported, and that's where the poet, the artist, the image maker is able to work on people's emotions. But the idea is that what narratives are being associated with those emotions, right? Like you can have an upbeat or epic sort of track background music like you had for this video. That's giving you a cue about how to think about the thing, right? So most of us, we get our cues for how to think about things based on how we feel. If somebody says something that you don't like or disagree with, right, you're not gonna viscerally, you're not gonna like it. It's gonna make you feel bad. And if you believe something opposite, you're gonna think that what that person is saying is bad, right, or is wrong. And so emotions and what we believe are intimately wed. So with propaganda, you get this question where you have these curated images and narratives, and they're telling you how you should feel about it, right? Based on the sound, based on the music, based on the imagery and the art. And so Plato's point was that unless there is a higher standard of truth governing that process, that image making, society is in trouble, because people will begin to emote with things that are not necessarily aligned with truth, right? Like the myths, the ancient Greek myths. It's not that they're supposed to be literally true, but what the myth represents is supposed to allow people to conceptualize something higher, right? The metaphor is supposed to lead to something truthful at a higher level. And that's what metaphor means. It literally means to transport. So art uses metaphors. The artist will offer something familiar that everybody can identify with, but then you transform that image. It becomes something else. You know, a cave, right? The allegory of the cave. We all know what a cave is. We all know what shadows are, but the way Plato treats the idea of shadows on the cave wall is used to communicate something profound. And so Plato offered examples of the kind of imagery and myths that he thought were in alignment with truth and could lead people to a higher discovery. Propaganda, the kind of Fort Bragg stuff we just saw there, that's psyops. That's much of what our modern culture and entertainment complex is, and that's what a lot of, the intelligence agencies and narrative formation is about as well.
And then there's also the deck is stacked in that something like certain narratives, even if you know it's horseshit, there is still part of you. It can be entirely subconsciously or maybe mostly consciously. We want the narrative to be real. We want a hero. We want good. We want bad. We want, even when we know it's a lie. It's one thing to not know it's a lie. It's another thing to watch, and you still want to feel like the good guys versus the bad guys, and they know that. They know that it's
and yet and there's like epic, again, not sure if people were able to hear the music. I heard the words and stuff, but there's an epic
yeah
sort of like
oh yeah,
Jerry Bruckheimer narrated freaking.
you can slap it on any trailer for a movie and
So
like
people,
it's happening now.
especially if you're bored, you're like, hey, why don't I take a shot? That's at least seems more interesting than what's going on,
in my universe,
in my vicinity. So yeah, we have that, and that speaks to the kind of a deeper problem that, again, with the economic woes and the sort of fabric of society being increasingly fractured, people are looking for something. And that's where I think a lot of the psyops today, there's a lot of decentralization where it's like people get into QAnon, they get into this conspiracy. The kind of Trump stuff has become kind of QAnon, right? Like there's still people who think like Trump is literally just waging this like white magic war against the black magic deep state sorcerers. You don't even hear the word deep state anymore, right? They've just gone, it's the left, it's the crazy left. So it's same old left-right dialectic in the Fort Bragg video, literally Soviet Union, Maoist
Yeah,
China, like
yeah.
same, they're, threatening our freedoms. Like these are all very bobo narratives. And yet the people who just a few, not long ago realized that there was something really wrong with the messaging and what we were being told about, just basic narratives about the world, right? Kind of things that Epstein that popped a lot of people's bubbles. It's like they're like putting the genie back in the bottle, which isn't easy, but people are kind of like just giving them,
Well, they want the genie in the bottle. Again, it's not a even playing field. We want it to be real.
right. And you know what? That reminds me of my other favorite, one of my most favorite rants from a Ray Comp in where they're talking about what is a normie, right?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily like that word either. Like I'm not, people are NPCs and
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
we're enlightened and da
It's
da
all
da.
very naughty, yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, yeah, at one level, normie is just that the world is as it appears, right? You kind of like, there are certain sacred myths that hold our society together, and those are not things that are to be questioned, right? So you're there's a surface level interaction with the world and reality. It's not like, they have families, they have jobs, they work hard. It's none of that, but it's that there's a level of belief that is technically, I wouldn't call it a virtue, right? Because we're supposed to be curious. We're supposed to, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. Like we're supposed to be somewhat skeptical. That's the nature of philosophy. That's the nature of, pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. So Ray Kump was just saying that they hate awareness, right? That
Yeah,
it's
they
the
they
apple.
they loathe any sort of awakening.
Well,
It's
he
the
said it, but he referred to Adam. He said it's the apple. It's like Adam and Eve. People bite into the apple and then they want to go back. They're upset
Yeah,
if
because they were talking.
somebody's
What led into it was talking about Disney adults.
right. Exactly. So it's the Disney-fied culture, and people get upset when you call into question the validity or the value of these kind of superficial narratives. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not a virtue. We should be able to question things. It doesn't mean, again, the opposite is people who go crazy rabbit hole and it's like everything is a conspiracy, everything is a lie. And finally, their brains fall out of their head and, they need to be in therapy. They've like quit their job, they've like left their family, and they've just become like these wandering mystics or whatever. Who knows? Like
Just
everybody has,
broke. Yeah.
but so that's not the move. But so then how do you walk that line? And that's the problem that Ray and Tim were kind of addressing in a certain sense, which is that, yeah, awareness isn't, there's a bitterness to biting into the apple. But the point is that in at least in the dialogue I wrote about Adam and Eve, the issue was that they didn't finish the apple. They were so turned off by the initial bitterness, right? The fall and what they discovered, that they really couldn't make it to the other side. And the snake tells them that, yeah, again, you're too young. There was a reason God told you not to bite into the apple, to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, is that you weren't ready. In the same way, a kid is told, don't touch the hot stove. And, what do? They touch the hot stove. But it's not that you're never supposed to cultivate awareness. It's not that we're never supposed to grow up, or that there aren't other kinds of joys and delights and things we can savor as grown-ups, right? But the Disney culture doesn't want you to grow up, right? And the people who love Disney culture don't like the idea that they should take joy in other things, right? And thinking about what kind of world is being left for the next generations, building something, right? Creating something, making discoveries. Like you need to be mature if you want to do these things. And anybody who impinges on your reality, if people who are making discoveries or who are curious, that's obviously going to be a threat to your like your Disney bullshit world. So we got a paradox there, right? Because you don't want people's brains to explode, and once you get into conspiracies, it's easy to get lost because there is a lot of horseshit there too. There's horseshit on all sides, right? So discernment is the only way that will really allow us to proceed in a way that's worthwhile. But if not, yeah, you have the Apple problem, right?
It's almost like if you finish the apple, you'd be better off, right? Who's the physicist that the first sip from the cup of science turns you to an atheist, but the last drop at the bottom of the chalice brings you back to God.
Interesting. Who said that one?
I don't remember. It was one of the big names in the 20th century,
It's like
Planck or
Blanc.
Bohr's or yeah, one of them. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
it's like if you finish, and again, even with conspiracies, what I always tell people is like, don't jump down the rabbit hole. Repel slowly, like very, very, and you go, okay, that no, no, keep going, because there are real conspiracies, but not everything is. And I was gonna say it's almost more dangerous than what's almost more. I would not even say almost. I'd say what is more dangerous than the propagandized person, normie, whatever, that really believes the world is as it is the person who knows that it isn't and still is choosing. The person that it's one thing if you're a Disney adult and you're like actually mentally retarded. And I don't even mean that in a negative way. Let's just say you actually are. You might not be threatened by other people who aren't Disney adults. You would go, yeah, whatever. But what is creepier is the ones that know there's a real world outside of this. Don't tell me I can't do this. Don't tell me I can't be this.
right,
Because now there's no amount of anything that will bring you out of it because you're consciously choosing you're rewatching the movie. You've seen it a million times, but you still don't care because at least you know it. I think that in many ways is far more dangerous. But like you said, there is, if you do kind of step out, I remember like, I don't know, like the years following college, I just remember being like so sad that like my friend group was slowly kind of like drifting apart, and I was like, this is.
right,
And then now I've been out of college for 12 years, and now I look at it and I don't feel sad at all. I'm like, well, we did high school and college, and if I look at everyone involved, I'm like, am I personally sad that I'm not still? I'm like, no, I'm doing the podcast and build my own thing. It's a crazy adventure. And I look at my other friends, and what are they sad and depressed in a bar? No, one's a doctor, one's a lawyer, they're married with kids. No part of it is this sad ending. We just moved to something else. But there is that gap. You have to finish the apple. You have to finish the chalice. If you stay right there, it's very depressing. If you
right.
go through it, like you said, you start, all my cousins have kids, and you completely see my cousin who like is a carbon copy of me. We're almost the same age. Legitimately fucking craziest. He was in jail and broke so many bones throughout. I mean, legitimately, he blew something up and burned off his eyebrows and was always in like he's just the most mature dad ever. And
Hmm.
he's not it's not like a depressed thing. You see that he is truly taking value in teaching his son how to ride a bike, teaching him
Right.
about, going to school. And, it's like you said, there are different joys if you stick through it. That no, it's not depressing being an adult. It absolutely is. I think it's very satisfying to think about the world you're leaving behind. But yeah, it's that first instinct is to not. If you go to the gym and stick, I'll make it easier with this. Woke up today. I'm in Portland, Maine. It's December. It's fucking cold, even with the heater on. It's just cold. And
Right.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go to the gym, but I was like, I'm just gonna go to the gym. Did it? Come back, feel great, warmed up, head's all clear. If you've never gone through it, it's gonna seem like hell, and you're gonna want to stay in the warm bed. But if you go through it, you're actually very glad you did. And I think that is what we're up. And there's a lot of people that have a vested interest in you staying in bed, and they sell big blankets. Did they want you to stay there? Sorry, I'll stop rambling, but
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. the quote that opens the recent documentary I made, The Devil at Woodstock, is a Huxley quote where he says, God, I'm going to butcher it, but if most people remain ignorant of themselves, it's because self-knowledge is painful and people prefer the pleasure of illusion. Now, I actually got it. That's actually the quote. But it's interesting because that shows the insight of the social engineer in the kind of Brave New World system, which is that, and you said it, people want to believe. Like the pleasure of illusion is so enticing, and self-knowledge is going to come with a very a bitterness, right? Something, it's morbid almost at first, but that's like, I mean, any kind of real spiritual, you could say, conversion or breakthrough is also considered like, a death, a night of the soul,
Yeah.
or a night of the body. So I mean, there is a precedent for that. But yeah, so I think part of the role of art and culture, though, I mean, think about Dante's comedy. He takes you through hell, but the whole time that he's through hell, he's being reassured, number one, first by his guide, Virgil, which is the bridge to the ancient world and the ancient sort of knowledge and craft, and using that in his journey as he makes his way through purgatory. And he has Beatrice, whose voice is still, it's still there. He knows that he's being awaited by Beatrice in paradise. So, like, you need motivation. Number one, people do need a pick me up.
You gotta have a carrot.
But that's the point of having a vision, of their having some ideal for the future, something that people are working towards, that people are building, right? Are participating in creating something better. And so I'd say the real danger is when you take all that away, right? And that's where the predicament that we have with the Zoomers and the younger generations, which is leading to interesting results, is that there doesn't seem to be that. There doesn't seem to be the prospect of something better. But that's had the effect that a lot of the horseshit that is peddled by the establishment is not believed. So it has some interesting results. And the question is, can Western civilization sort of turn the ship around? I mean, that's a big question. I'm not a doomer, but again, it's going to require some bitter pills and some self-knowledge. But big changes usually happen when the illusions of the Brave New World can no longer be held together. So I do think there's an advantage if, the Disneyfication of things, that these things don't work. These things work when, as Tim Dillon said, people have scams. There's things they can participate in and they can get something out of it. But if you're not going to get anything out of the system and you're being asked to believe all this stuff, you're not going to play ball. So the oligarchy, these sort of power structures, if you will, are in a bit of a quagmire, because what can we give people to get them to continue to willingly participate in the fraud? It's difficult, right? So I wouldn't necessarily want to be in their position, to be honest, in terms of like, sure, they have power, they have that, but you're up against, you're in a losing war when you consider all the other developments in the world, the way like Germany, these European countries, I mean, they're just all cratering. US, Canada, I mean, they're all just kind of being suicidal, right?
Mm-hmm.
In their actions.
Yeah, no, they've grifted too much, right? I mean, you're always gonna grift, but you can't take so much that the fucking slaves die off, because then you don't have a workforce. Like, you have to have, if you want your thing to keep going, they have to have something to go with. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And if you can't partake in it, You're either not going to partake in it, or you're going to even go worse. You're going to go kinetic. You're going to grab a gun and be like, fuck these people. Like they have to, the illusion has, again, even if you know it's horseshit, that's if you know it's horseshit, but you can still get a house and you don't need to work 90 hours a week, if you can go get a job and support a wife and two kids, yeah, it's easy to look back and be like, oh, before the internet, they didn't know what was going on. You probably did have some dudes in the 50s that read a lot of books and they were like, yeah, I kind of feel, because Smedley Butler, War's a Racket, that speech was 20 years old by the time we were in the 50s. You probably had a couple guys being like, yeah, it's a racket, but you know what? I work at the Ford plant and drink
Right.
on the weekends. You have to have something to part, and it's not for the right reasons. It's not like it's the right thing to do. Your fellow man shouldn't be a slave, if only for the most selfish reasons, to keep your gold-plated yacht going. You gotta you gotta stop grifting 95%. Bring it down to 80. You can still live like a god, but the retards have to have something, and then the people who aren't retarded have to have something that it's good and like I'm 35, you know. I'm very aware that it's alcohol is not fun. I'm very aware it's a drug in my brain. And I haven't drank in 2 years, but nonetheless, you still want to drink. A Reese's cup is, you're going to get fat, but you don't care. It's Reese's cup. There is a certain point where you go, yeah, I know it's horseshit, but I have it and it's nice. It's a blanket at the end of the week. We're gonna go get drunk and then we're gonna, come back, smoke a bong and talk like dipshits till sunrise. None of it's real. No part of you is like, oh, we had this magical drink and we all felt. It's like, no, it's alcohol. We're getting fucked up, and it's how you have fun in an unfun situation. It's how people you hate become tolerable. Is you just get shit faced. You have to at least provide the alcohol. If you don't
Right.
even have that, you're like, dude, you're asking for trouble now.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, they're
Give them the soma.
right, and so they don't. And well, what is the so what are they doing? I mean, this is what I've done quite a bit of work on that as well. I mean, I cover that as well in my book here, shameless plug, Renaissance or New Middle Ages. And so the idea of a New Middle Ages, uh, Tim Dillon and Ray Kupp were also talking about this in terms of the future of the nation state and how it's changing, where it's really the future is radical decentralization.
Yeah.
I've talked about this a lot going back to with the work in the Stanford Research Institute, the Changing Images of Man document, where they're talking about governance structures and creating kind of a world village system, where the idea is that people think world government is like UN and these like super centralized agencies, but they're saying that actually, if you look historically, the our decentralization is actually a much better way to control societies. Like if you think about feudalism,
A thousand
before there,
percent.
huh?
1,000%.
Yeah, before there were nation states, I mean, it was way easier for the sort of black nobility or whatever you want to call it, the hereditary oligarchy to control when it was all these different warring regions, right? These duchies and these lords all kind of fighting for their thing, making alliances, but there was no kind of top down organizing principle. It was way easier to splinter things, to create gangs and counter gangs. And so one of the things that they're trying to do is number one is the kind of decentralization, elimination of the nation state. And that's what this kind of, for all the libertarians, you can kind of actually see what is the end game with the libertarian ideology. Well, it's eliminate nation states, eliminate natural law. Crypto billionaires will start their own cities with their own rules. And if you want to participate in the nice sort of futuristic St. Louis, where you can actually, or whatever, Missouri, this or that, or maybe Portland will get the tech. You got to do biometrics, right? You got to
Yeah.
play by
Yeah.
the rules.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
idea of sort of inherent rights, natural rights, that's going to go. And the other thing I would say, the other development is mysticism, is a shift towards more of the framework outlined in Huxley's last novel, The Island, which is like, it's like 20, 30 years after Brave New World, and it came out a year before he died. That's what my documentary, The Devil at Woodstock, it covers that, is the idea of using mysticism as spirituality, right? So, but a certain brand of spirituality where, because there are no longer all the material trappings and comforts that used to be the form, the basis of the illusions that people thrived on, now there's a promotion towards traditional spirituality, that material stuff is actually not good, right? It actually makes you superficial. But of course, what's the catch? I mean, they're not looking to mainline any kind of traditional Western spiritual tradition. It's really, or modern. They're looking to bring back the mystery cults of old. And from the Eleusinian mysteries, we've talked about this with psychedelics. I mean, we've talked about that a lot. But all the mystery cults, in terms of just Hermeticism, bringing people into, getting them to retreat inwards. So emphasis used to be on outward material progress, the Western ideal of like, how do we know if society is doing well? Well, look at the stock market, look at the economy, look at the GDP, look at the growth. That
now we're okay.
is the model that they want to phase out and introduce. They're calling it new scarcity. They're calling it the circular economy. But you need a spiritual and ideological framework that aligns with a degrowth post-industrial kind of system. And so there's a renewed emphasis on spirituality and mysticism, where the idea is, people, at the end of the day, that the mystical sort of framework it's basically Gnosticism. You're telling people, you're sucking people into this thing where they think they are gaining profound wisdom and knowledge. They're living in like poverty, right? The society is sort of fracturing before their very eyes. But these things don't matter, right? Because they're outward at material questions. So that's another play that I think, if people sort of watch what's being put out there, there's an emphasis on that. And a lot of people, some, whether Christian or whether this or whether that, I'm saying Christian because we're in the West, people think they're going back to like traditional Christianity or orthodoxy or this, but there are other things at play. And this is where I think people, self-knowledge is painful, right? As Huxley said, people prefer the pleasure. It would be nice to believe, yeah, I'm going to the real thing, and I'm now getting closer to spiritual enlightenment, which may be the case. But I'm saying, consider what's happening in the world, and like it's becoming the new norm, the new normie move to become spiritual. And is that just because all these normies have suddenly eaten the apple, tasted the bitterness, and made it to the other side? Have they really done that? Or is it that now the new normieism is kind of being put out as, yeah, you're spiritual now, and so change your perspective on all these things and don't look at all the things that are being done, because you don't care about those things anymore, right? You don't care about materialism anymore.
The oligarchs are playing with fucking fire. Because at first glance, it's a very intelligent move. No. We're all gonna, somebody had a quote. They're like, "Why is Buddhism so popular in jails?" Yeah, it's the only way, right? You got to go inside, get nothing. So all this is like, okay, so you don't get the pool, you don't get the 4 SUVs, you don't get the yada yada yada. And so we'll use the West, the trad cath route, or what in general, the less material in the world, but not of the world. Okay, that's all right. Hey, touche, oligarchs, you're bringing them along. That people now, I like that I live as a minimalist. It's like, well, it's also because you can't afford anything, inflation, blah blah blah. But if you follow that to the nth degree, what's eventually going to happen as people retreat further into this and less of the material world, they're going to stop placing any value on anything at all. It's why does communism always get rid of religion so that the state becomes your God? They're now pushing people to a God that is in this world, but not of this world. That's also how you get people to go, oh, I have nothing to lose. I don't fear this person. You have to burn me at the stake now. It's like if we went to war with like Europe, like, you could probably get them to surrender and vice versa. The reason why you can't win against Islam is because they'll legit just blow themselves up. They don't give a fuck. There's nothing that's why they're a formidable enemy. Man, so it's smart in the short term. They've taken away all material success. The scam isn't really the college, the whatever. In the short term, and the short term might be 50 years. Okay, you have people kind of retreating to this asceticism, trad cath, mystery cult, whatever. But man, the only way you can win them back is with bringing back material goods. Because if you don't, if they've stopped fearing everything, well, it doesn't matter if I'm not going to own a home. I've never owned a home. Eventually, you're going to reach a point of like, well, if none of this matters, it's kind of that, ironically, it's like the core of like, hey, none of this matters. You can't take it with you. Now, and again, it might not be till 2080. Now you're fucked if you're in the oligarchy. Because now there's nothing you can give them. They don't care.
Well, it's fairly uncharted territory, you could say. That's one hypothesis, and I mean, yeah, we could game it.
Well, sorry, the book Black Hawk Down by Mark Bowden. He interviews some of the Somali veterans, right? And we went in their Delta Force Rangers. The United States had 18 deaths, and they killed something like 5 or 6,000 Somalis. Just like Michael Jordan versus me. But there was a quote from one of the Somali soldiers, which is just the guy with the gun, and they're talking about how they're all gathering together because they had just killed a U.S. soldier, and that we sent a bunch of guys to go grab the body and bring him back. And the Somalis had this. They went. We just found out what the Americans' weakness is. They're afraid of death. And to us, we go, well, of course we're afraid of death. But to them, they were like, because we're not. We don't care. Oh, the Americans are afraid of death. Oh. And then you're like, holy shit, dude. How do you fight a group that it's news to them that death is to be feared? How the fuck do you don't? You leave.
Right.
That's yeah.
Well, yeah, no, so you're right at that level. And well, the other thing is that might be the case because people have nothing to lose.
Well, they have nothing. But extrapolate that 80 years here.
Yeah, no. And I mean, so factory setting is people will they're assuming that people will be that mystical and spiritual and not look around at, say, massive abundance in the countries outside of the West, right? Russia, China, all these countries are going up, right? BRICS countries. I know there's a lot of like different narratives, but I mean, watch a couple TikToks and it sounds funny, but like if you just watch a few things, again, young people can see these. A lot of the people that have been ingesting the horse shit forever, they don't see the level of high tech advancement and standard of living increases that they're abroad.
Yeah.
And so these ideas of like, hey, maybe feudalism is good. Like peasants were happier back in
how bad is China if they all have food and water and healthcare?
That kind of like vampire cult dark age narrative that is being pushed. I've heard that from people that are, devout Orthodox Christians, devout sort of Catholics, trad casts, and like I have friends in all these circles, and there's a dark romanticism where the idea is that there was this better kind of golden age of spirituality that we lost because of materialism and the fall with the modern world. But I think that speaks more to kind of people's own dissatisfaction with their own kind of spiritual journeys. But all that to say that, like what way this thing will go, will people just remain in that mystical world, or will they realize they're being screwed? And then you have a reckoning for the establishment. Like, again, I believe devil always overplays his hands. I'm an optimist. Like I don't think the bad guys are kind of all powerful.
No.
And you can see them making a lot of mistakes, but you can also see I see like open Satanists now on Twitter doing spaces. Like it's just another on Substack. Like a lot of things are coming out of the woodwork. And I think that's for the better, right? I would rather people be Satan forward than, just talk about reaching your spiritual sort of self-actualized omega point where a lot of like kind of new age people will get sucked into that. Let these people say what they believe. And again, it comes back to, I think, who will tell the better story, right? Who tells the story of our true story, the story of man better, the story of Western civilization. I think that's ultimately who's going to win out, because it's just information, people have tons. But when it comes to creativity and crafting like real stories, both fiction and like actual history, I the devil is not the most creative. There's creativity comes from, the better ones. So yeah, like we're going to publish a new short story that we featured. I have a Journal of Arts and Culture, New Liar. So this is the winter 2026 issue. It's on Age of Muses, and we have a new short story, and we have a series coming out. So I'm saying this, we do have a story project, and I'm making a new film now on the Renaissance, which will be adapting work from my book, but also new research. I've met some interesting folks of late, and I'm going to be collaborating with them. So yeah, I do think that now is a time for us to get out there and get more excited about possibilities that weren't possible before, because the illusions still were so enticing, had so much power. Now, not so much.
One, I was gonna say, no, that's a good point. These other countries that are clearly like you see videos of Russia or China or wherever. Yeah, it's clearly not fucking sub-Saharan Africa like you were led to believe. I'm not saying it's better, or maybe it is, but you look at it now, you're like, it doesn't seem that bad. So that in that sense, in that I was thinking more of like globally people have been reduced to where they retreat into asceticism and Buddhism and whatever. No, in the world where there are other places to flee to, no, Occam's razor would just say the path of least resistance is, instead of us taking on this new religion, you'll just have a drain. People will just leave and go somewhere else, right? And then, of course, that's when dictatorships set up walls, so you can't leave. But and then what you were saying about no, I'm with you. I'm an optimist in that. Yeah, I mean, I just from my own experience, I'm 35 now, but I mean, when I graduated roughly 12 years ago, December 2013. I just gotten into med school, just had first serious girlfriend, and I had known for like a year that I really kind of didn't want to be a doctor anymore. I realized it was something I was more proud of than something I wanted to do.
Hmm.
But the pull was good. It was, hey man, you're gonna make six figures, you're gonna be a doctor, girlfriend's hot as fuck. Hey man, you got it good. But I knew deep down I didn't want to go. Right when I graduated, I tried mushrooms for the first time, so that helped crack open that. And then a couple months later is when I lost my older brother to suicide. And then I was like, then I imploded. And in hindsight, I can actually look at it, and that's why I say losing a brother is awful, but it was also a blessing, is because it shredded all of the illusions. Not only that I decided I didn't want to go to med school. I imploded. I became a horrible friend. I burned so many bridges, treated my girlfriend like shit. She rightfully left me. Had to move home and like go to see. I was so fucked. But once I reached that like sort of Mariana's Trench bottom of fuckedness, I couldn't retreat to the illusion of like, and I wanted to. I was like, if I could go back, I would just go to med school. I would just be a fucking doctor. I would go do the 9 to 5. I don't care. But because all of that was torn away, and then it got to a point where it was like, man, the only thing keeping me going is the idea that maybe I can make my own way, do my own thing. And through fits and starts, and even now the podcast is 6 years old. Now it's at a point where it's like, yeah, it pays all my bills and I get to do this for a living. I would never have even started this path. And if I did, I would have quit after 3 months, because the illusions were still so real, even after mushrooms, and I started to realize it was all horseshit. I also didn't care. I was like, make 6 figs, I'll be Dr. Carrigan. It's a good enough life. When those became less serviceable as delusions, whether or not you know it's a delusion. Before mushrooms, I thought it was real. After mushrooms, I knew it was fake, but I kind of still didn't care. I was like, whatever. Give me the Disney. But once it was all shredded and there was none of it was even feasible. The friends didn't talk to me. The girlfriend left me. They're not gonna let me into med school. Then it was like, now I might as well go this way. And no other thing would made me have gone that way, other than the fact that all the delusions, all the blankets, all the carrots, they weren't around. I would have happily taken them, but they weren't there. So it was like, fuck it, go my own way. So I'm with you. The tearing away of these illusions, we're in that growth period right now. So the period of time I just talked about, I talk about in 2 minutes, it went from 2013 to when I moved out of my parents' house in 2021. That was 8 years. But my point is like the growth period is bad, but you can get through it if you finish the apple, finish the chalice. I'm with you. I think that we're ultimately going to go somewhere that we never would have gone willingly if it was still just fucking MTV and AOL and get a 3-bedroom home in suburbia. I'm optimistic.
I mean, I think I think I just created a new verb, carrigan. So basically, we need the world, the West is about to get carrigan, inshallah. That's
You're about
that might be what happens.
You're on the high dive board and you're looking at the pool. You're like, oh, I wish I had the balls to jump. And then someone goes, fuck you. And just, unscrews the high dive and it falls. It's like, well,
Yeah.
now we're diving.
Yeah. Then your instincts got to kick in.
But I would never have done this had there been an option to quit. Even if it was carrot driven of I want to go be my own boss and go do something.
Right. Carrot driven.
Yeah, it wasn't strong. Getting into med school was carrot driven. It was very difficult, but I was like, I know if I just study, I know I'm at a big SEC school and I'm not partying, but if I just stick to it, I'm going to be happy that I'm a doctor. Versus this shit was like, hey man, if you work hard, you might be able to pay your bills in a decade by doing something you want. No amount, you eventually break. You go, fuck this shit. But when there's nowhere else to go, when you've burned the boats or the boats have been burned for you, then you go, motherfucker. And now that I'm here, I talk about it all, wax poetically. I'm like, it was a journey and I got here. But I'm very honest. At any given point in the last 10 years, had there been an option to just go back, would have taken it. Now that I'm here, I'm like, now would I go back? Absolutely not. I'm my own boss. Do whatever the fuck I want. I'm at work right now.
Right.
But man, there had to be some environmental factors to make you go that way. And we might be getting Kerrigan. I don't know.
I mean, ancient Greek sort of drama is kind of, there's a factor of fate, right? There's a factor of things that people can't control. And then the question is not, Seneca has the line, fate, I forget, fate accompanies the willing and drags the unwilling, right? So how we accept our fate and is actually often more decisive than the idea that we're going to change our fate. But it's really, I mean, you could say in psychotherapy, it's your attitude, which again, that sounds a bit bullshit. But, the ancient Greeks, Antigone, and, the whole Oedipus trilogy, like the things that couldn't be controlled were sort of already ordained by the gods. And the things that they could, there's a tension between those two and the uncertainty there, right? There's paradoxes, but I feel that, it is something to ponder, right? Like even serenity prayer, which I like, is, give us the wisdom to accept things
we cannot change, the strength to
and the wisdom to know the difference.
And the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah, it's
grant us the courage to change the things we can. I only know when I say
fuck it. Yeah, wait.
loving higher power, please grant me surrender, accept things I cannot change, the courage to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the
The
difference, right?
difference. Yes.
That's good, right? And that, in a nutshell, is what I mean. Greek tragedy deals with this same thing, and now the paradox of being carrigan, raises the same issue, right? Which is we have to accept certain things, but what we do in accepting that, that there's still a lot that's undecided. That depends on how we go about that, despite the fact that maybe 90% of the situation is fate. We
Already
have no
determined.
say in it. But that 10% then is technically all that really matters.
But it's all
Right?
there.
Because the
It's all there
90% is what it is.
90% is an illusion. It was never up for grabs anyway.
Yeah. So I feel that's where wisdom comes in how do we discern one from the other. That takes a lot of time, right? We could go back and forth. But I guess that's the whole point. Like, fret not. We're not supposed to panic, but it's important to cultivate that discernment, especially in a period like now where more people are asking questions, right? More people are kind of looking for answers on a whole series of different matters that pertain to, the fate of our civilization and our societies. So, hey, in Chinese, word crisis is also means opportunity. So it's not a bad one.
No, it's not. I mean, I think, and I might be wrong with this, but isn't it Christ says 365 times and 365 different occasions in the Bible, be not afraid. The entire idea is like you have to work. Yeah, it is you go need to do things. It's not all easy, but don't flip it. Or more simply, it's you have to row, but God will guide the boat. You do have to row, and it's gonna hurt, and your triceps are gonna burn, but He's guiding it. And I think that's what. And when I think about like fate, and like the reason I got banned from YouTube and iTunes was, because I went up the chain of command of doctors until I finally found the guy that had the mRNA patent, and he was like, it's giving like kids heart attacks, and I was like, well, this I can't not talk. I'm like, well, this is fucked. Like I have to. It's so in your face. It's one thing you're walking by Salvation Army and they're ringing the bell. You're like, yeah, I don't have any money. Versus when you see some, it's like 2 a.m. It's like raining outside, and you see some dude. You're like, yeah, you can have $1. Like you kind of feel like shit. You're like, okay, fuck.
Mm.
And so the worst that happened was I got banned from YouTube and iTunes. The show went on through a lot of difficulty, but the show went on. But I looked at that and I was like, now I have no reason because it's objectively bad, and now I'm aware. And once you've been made aware, now you can't claim ignorance. Man, I absolutely would have lost my medical license if I had done that.
Mm.
So it's like I made that same decision. I made it on as a podcaster where I just wasn't allowed on YouTube for a couple of years. I'm back now. Can you imagine making that as a doctor? Now you're also $500,000 in debt and you can't be a doctor. So it comes to is it fatalistic? Or was it Oedipus? Is it
Well, again,
I don't know.
as I know someone who's a psychiatrist, and he was just saying, yeah, why did so many doctors go along? And he said, well, what do you have to like? How much are you willing to lose? Right? Because simply by not upholding a narrative that like everyone else is holding, you just get to go with the herd. You'll be
Just
safe.
put your head down, shut up.
Yeah, but how much are you willing to lose simply by like saying making a few missteps in your words? Um,
Yeah.
most people are not willing to like lose
No,
too much.
I'm
And
with
you
you.
can't fully blame people, but at the
I
same
don't.
time, that's where it's like, hey, there's a spiritual question there, and there's, how do people fare in times of great adversity? Like, most people are not made to sort of go against the herd like that, even by nature, which is why, I mean, a lot of like the basic Tavistockian sort of social engineering of society is based on group dynamics. Like, group dynamics is the core of we're going to use groups, we're going to artificially prop up even the perception and appearance that everything is really approved by the group, even if it's not, right? We're going to use all sorts of framing and different techniques to arrive at consensus or what seems like a consensus, because we know that most people cannot push back against the herd. And so our top priority is to create that herd culture and create a science around manipulating that.
Yeah.
And like, again, we could go, this is a whole other show, and we should do another. But again, I talk about this in the book in terms of the Stanford Research Institute and their methods for, there's a word for it, segmentary polycephalous networks. And so like decentralized, and you use groups, but you can create a massive many splinter groups. And so it's like, wait, they're not groups. It's like there's so many of them, but it's actually, no, that's how you manipulate the whole mass, because they're like organisms. They're going to fight against each other. They use like Greenpeace and the environmental movements. Greenpeace hates lynx, hates like sea shepherds, and hates the Sierra Club, hates this one. But as an organism, as a movement, they still advance the same idea. And so you could go on like this group dynamic stuff is big, but so I think there's an example of awareness. Like if more people, the herd does have like a threshold, right? You need a certain amount of people to believe it. But as soon as you get like an independent contingent, like the margins are small, right? Like if the contingent, people who know like the official story is bullshit, is like 20%, that's a huge problem. Like 20% is big. It's like the conspiracy theorists are supposed to be like less than 1%. They can't be like 10, 15, 20% and have some coherent understanding of what's going on. That's way too much. Like the normies are not that creative, right? Not to be too deprecating, but the 80% that is the herd, by its nature, the herd is not the most agile, right? Intellectually. Yeah. So it's easy for a creative minority, as Martin Luther King said, right? That's what he said, like the creative minority. Gideon's army in the Bible, right? It's that small contingent that actually has insight, knows what it's doing, that is able to then change circumstances on a strategic level. So these are all things to consider, right? We're in a war, psychological, spiritual, cultural war. And since people are asking questions, I mean, it seems like this is a great time to be having these conversations.
Yeah, in terms of like, can you blame the doctor? Sure, you can, but it's also very easy to look back and be like, "Well, I wouldn't have been a Nazi. I would." It's very easy to say, and maybe you're right. But I look back as somebody that did, get fucked in the ass by being derailed by talking about that stuff. I couldn't pass a lie detector test. I would like to think that I would have done the same thing had I been an MD and put 4 years into med school and 8 years into residency and $500,000 in debt. I can't say for certain I wouldn't. I think I very easily would have made a justification that went, well, people are people and it's not my fault. I think I absolutely would have. And then what you said about all the different, climate activist groups, they all hate each other, yet as like a meta organism, they move towards the same way. You can always tell, again, like psychological warfare, you can always tell something has real value when the military spends money on it. Like it's like, yeah, they don't fuck around. They're trying to kill people and control things. Even in the Manhattan Project, they purposely split it up amongst a couple labs, knowing full goddamn well everyone was on Team America and we got to beat Japan and Germany. But the competition between the labs, hey, fuck those guys over at Sandia National Lab. Hey, we're over here at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Fuck those guys over at Sandia. That pushed it forward. Despite the fact that they all knew damn well they should be working together, they said the competition actually drove it forward faster. And that's in a war effort when you're on the same side. So why wouldn't it work in everything? And
right. I mean, that's how the oligarchy views the left versus right.
Absolutely.
There's
Absolutely.
factions, but it's still always
And well, lastly, we'll wrap it up with what you just said about the 20%, 80%. I was listening to the whatever archive number I'm on right now, but Ray was going, it's a problem because he goes, the conspiracy theorists are starting to get things wrong. He goes, not everything is bullshit, but so many things have been shown to be bullshit that now people are just default going, yeah, it's probably all horseshit. That's not good. It should be a small minority of people.
mm,
The fact that they're all just kind of like the default is now going, it probably is a conspiracy. That's not good. Now the herd is going, because like I said, the herd is not agile, the herd is not creative. What the herd has is numbers. It's, quantity is a quality all amongst its own. If you're moving away from that, and a sizable portion is now going, it's even though a lot of things are fucked, you don't have that. If you're the oligarchy, you don't want people's default position now being whatever they're telling us can't be the truth. That's horrible. You don't want that. You want the default to be
and you
okay.
don't want, that's not a good society, right? You want to have official narratives like be rooted in reality. Like the point of the government is to administer a sound society. Like
You want people to go, okay, JFK was sketchy, but overall it's fine. That's what you want the answer to be. To they'll surrender one thing and go, yeah, we kind of just wanted to make some money in Vietnam, but overall the narrative isn't horseshit. You don't want where we are at where we're at now, where everything is like, yeah, it's probably horseshit. Like it's like now the first thing you see when they start bombing drug boats in the ocean is people are like, the media is just mad because they're owned by the CIA and those are the CIA's drugs. It's like, dude, if you're in the oligarchy, you gotta be like, fuck. Fuck. Like that can't be the default, but it is. So
I think that's a good place to end it on.
yeah, we'll cap it
can't
there.
have everybody. Welcome to the world.
Hey guys, don't go back to get a Christmas tree. Go back to sleep. Or, whatever. Send me the links to the documentary, send me the links to everything. Send me the link to the book as well. And I'll put it in the description. And I'll upload this right after. It'll be like an hour or so. And I'll send it to you.
Excellent.
All right, big dog.
All right, nice chatting, Tommy. We'll be in touch. Talk soon.
Oh yeah, man. Always great to catch up. Guys, thank you for watching. Go in the description. Please go follow Substack, buy his books, blah, 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 blah. All that
Merry
shit.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, David. Hey guys, real quick, you guys know Basil Baz, ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. I just did a fundraiser with them the other day, and I'm going to put this on to every episode I do. They are special forces veterans who physically rescue trafficked children. They have since 1993. They have a 100% success rate. They do not take salaries. They all have day jobs, and they literally rescue sex trafficked children. Donations to them are a tax write-off. I get nothing from them, and they have not asked me to put this on. I've included this little clip on episodes for the last year or so, and I'm just re-recording it because I just got to meet him just 2 days ago for future. It's November 25th, 2025, but this will be on every episode now for the next year. And there is nothing better you can do with your money. If you can support them for even $5, please do that. They truly are doing the Lord's work, and I think we all have an obligation to do that. Thank you so much.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
Hey guys, a huge sponsor of the show is Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. Clayton lives down in Georgia. He's been on the show before. It's actually nearby where I went to college. They are a huge sponsor of the show. They give me some money every month, even when I don't sell enough to warrant that paycheck. Meaning that the show is not free. It's just that it's free for you. If you guys need prepper food, or if you're just interested in supporting the show, I'd please ask you to go to the link in the description. Go to Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, promo code TPC for 10% off. 72 servings per pail, 25-year shelf life. These things are, they double as dumbbells. Pasta Primavera, cheesy potato soup, mac and cheese, loaded baked potato casserole, chili mac, cheddar broccoli soup, cheesy lasagna, teriyaki rice. You can get banana chips. There's also raspberries, strawberries, and apples. There's a bunch of freeze-dried fruit, or you can even get seeds to plant your own garden. It's not a bad thing to have. It's like gold or ammunition. It's a good thing to have. It's a bad thing if you have to use it, but it's good. It's good to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So that's what I'd say. And if you just want to support the show, please go to the link in the description. Please go support them because they support me. Thank you so much, guys.